Hello, and welcome to our latest video chat in the Money Show Expert Interview Series. I'm Mike Larson, Editor-in-Chief at MoneyShow, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Keith Fitz-Gerald, Principal of the Fitz-Gerald Group. Keith, I appreciate you taking some time out to chat today. A lot going on out there in the markets.
There is. Thank you so much for having me, and to everybody in the Money Show audience for tuning in. It's been a long time, and I can't wait to see you in August.
Great, great. Keith, you've been in this business for a long time. 40 years plus essentially at this point. I'm kind of curious about your take on this market environment. How does it compare to other ones that you've seen? You seem to be fairly constructive on stocks here as opposed to being cautious. So I'm curious as your overall big picture market take.
Well, thank you for asking. That's a sharp question. There has been a lot of change. It's been 43 years at this point that I've been involved in the markets as an analyst, a trader, an investor. It's been a remarkable ride. But you're right. What we've seen is we've seen events come and go. We've seen shades of the familiar and shades of the new. But the interesting thing, the one common thread, Mike, that many investors are overlooking right now is they are instinctively planning for the worst on the assumption that they're going to hide on the sideline somewhere, stick their head in the sand with a sign on their rear end. This is kick me when it's over. The problem is that the markets don't work like that anymore. There's no waiting for confirmation. There's not going to be glaring sign when it's over. Nobody's going to ding a bell saying all clear. You've got to be in if you want to win. And that's been a huge change in the 40 plus years I've been doing this. You can't wait for your opening. You've got to take your opening because you want to be off the porch to run with the big dogs when the next game starts.
Got it. And I've seen some of your sector-based work. I'm going to ask you a little bit about that in a minute. But before we get to that, you talk about some of the worries. For a little while there was the whole debt ceiling and what's going to happen with that. Now we also seem to be back in this will they or won't they soup when it comes to the Federal Reserve and potential rate hikes. And of course, the waters even there are muddied with talk of a skip, maybe rather than a pause. What are your thoughts on some of those big picture issues we've been talking about lately?
Well, I tell you what, as I've mentioned on Fox and CNBC and many other news appearances for the last basically year and a half, is number one, we are closer to the end of this than we are to the beginning of a next shoe drop. Now, a lot of people have trouble with that, which means, again, back to this plan for the worst, plan for the best dilemma. The problem is there are things you can control, Mike, and there are things you can't control. One of the things I focus on as an investment strategist is always going to be on the stuff I can control, no matter what the headlines are going to deliver. Will they or won't they on the Fed? Will they or won't they on the debt ceiling? As far as I'm concerned, you know what? Get out the magic 8 ball. That doesn't matter. But can I point you to companies that are going to make money no matter what happens? Absolutely. It's a very short selective list.
Got it. Well, let's start with one of the things you had in the recent 5 with Fitz morning column, which, by the way, I love that work. I love to start my day off with that. You talked about potential output cuts from OPEC and how that combined with stronger oil demand have you bullish on the energy sector. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that sector first.
You bet. I'd be happy to. That is one of the single most underrated, underestimated segments on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. People talk about EVs and alternative energy all the time as if it's a de facto conclusion. And it is. The world needs to go that way. There's no debate about that. But what catches people by surprise is that we're still going to need dinosaur juice for a long time, Mike. There's over 60,000 industrial processes that depend on petroleum. And even if the most aggressive scientists I've spoken with, it's going to take decades to shift from that, even if we have the substitute today. So energy is a continuum. Now, going to OPEC plus, OPEC and China in particular want to stick it to the West. And what they're going to do, I think, is they're going to cut production and simultaneously make a move towards the Chinese yuan. That's going to accomplish two things for them. They think it's going to maintain higher prices, but also it's going to shift the way the world thinks about currency reserves. My plan is to get ahead of that. We've got a couple of the oil majors identified. So far, they're doing really well, and they're very stable influences on the portfolio, which is great.
Another recent segment you did on Fox Business, you talked about Nvidia. And obviously, I'm sure most people watching this have seen or heard the great news there. I think you called the big data trend maybe the largest single investing trend in human history. So don't hold back. Why don't you tell me what it is about Nvidia and big data that you like so much?
Well, I tell you what, if I had $1 for every armchair quarterback that told me it was expensive, that had seen its best days, that the stock was never going to move again, I'd be writing to you from Jeff Bezos' yacht somewhere. But here's the thing about that, right? Is people look at data, they don't understand. They're hung up in the technology, Mike. But AI itself, big data in all its guises, may be the single largest investing trend in recorded human history. This is on par with the introduction of electricity, distributed energy, antibiotics. It is going to change the course of where the world goes from here. Now, you can argue all day long about whether that's scary, whether that's a good thing, whether it's somewhere in between. That's moot. As an investment strategist, I don't have the luxury of taking sides. But a company like Nvidia is going to power all of that. You can't do big data. You can't do AI without chips. They are very clearly the leader in that space. The PC gaming market that everybody's so worried about, that's just water under the bridge. Where you want to focus is your toaster, your refrigerator, your gaming center, your data center, the government users, the medical community, all of the cloud is all powered by chips, and they make the best chips in the world.
I mean, we can just take one look at the sort of the league stands and league tables. You can see what's dominating market performance this year. It's big tech. And the NASDAQ divergence from the Dow, for example, is extraordinary in terms of percentage gains and so on. I'm curious as to who else in the big tech space, besides a name like Nvidia, who else do you like, and just briefly why?
Well, sure. This is one of those things when you asked earlier about what's changed in the last 40 something years that I've been involved in the markets. Right now, you want to go after companies that are size, scope, and scale. There is only one Apple. People say it's all about the iPhones. Anybody who is thinking about Apple in terms of the iPhone lost the plot a long time ago. That is about data. It's about the way they use it. It's a big sensory platform. Tesla's another one. People say, oh, the cars, the trucks. No, that's not even remotely where Elon Musk is going. And if you understand that, Tesla becomes a logical investment choice because he's changing the way power is manufactured and distributed. He just happens to make cars. So those are two examples of the size, scope, and scale and visionary leadership that are attractive to me as an investment professional.
Keith, I'm really excited you're going to be joining us for our symposium coming up in Las Vegas this August. Is there a way you can maybe, before we wrap things up, give some of the viewers here a sneak peek at what kind of topics you think you're going to touch on, what kind of lessons you want to be able to expand upon there in Vegas?
Oh my goodness, you're very kind. I am super excited to be back with the Money Show family. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk about why the best really is yet to come. And we're going to talk about thematic investing. Many people are allocating money or they're splitting in this pot or like that pot. You might as well be rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic if that's how you're thinking. What I want to do is show people there's a path forward, identify the companies that are going that direction and how they can do that for themselves. And I'll be providing a series of lectures and talks. And of course, I'll be there the entire length of the show. If anybody wants to pull me aside in the hallway or have a drink, we're going to have some fun, talk money, we're going to talk markets and talk about the future, all of which is much brighter than people think.
Well, Keith, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, sharing some of your insights here. And thank you all for watching. If you do want to hear more from Keith, and I don't know why you wouldn't, he's going to be joined by dozens of other market and economic experts at the Investment Masters Symposium. It's scheduled for the Paris, Las Vegas from August 8th to August 10th. You can click the link in the video description below, learn how to join us. And I can't wait to see you there, Keith, as well. So thank you so much for your time.
It is my pleasure. Look forward to seeing you and to the entire Money Show family. Thanks for watching. See you there.
Great. Take care.